Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning into ChannelBK. My name is Brian. That's Bug. She's not really a fan of the album we're talking about. But yeah, I'm here in my living room, not in the office. The office is a hot mess. And getting in there, and it's hot. Getting all the camera equipment, all that stuff. And like doing it on the MacBook, it sounds grimy, it looks a little grimy, and it kind of fits the aesthetic of what we're talking about here. Garage rock album, because that's clearly the sole reason, and I'm not just a lazy son of a... We're here to talk about an album from 2003 by the White Stripes, Elephant. The White Stripes are a well-known garage rock, blues rock group from here in Detroit, Michigan. This is their fourth studio album, and this album saw the late success of the group. I shouldn't say late, more so like down the road in their career. Again, this being their fourth studio album, it sort of blew them up for obvious reasons we'll get into. This follows up White Blood Cells, which in a weird way was sort of the precursor to that. Like there are like some of their bigger singles are on here, but they're more in your face, quick, punchy, riffy. There were still songs on here that definitely were experimenting, and I know that album and this album are kind of like people pick and choose like which one they like more. I personally like this album, Elephant, because it just feels a little bit more interesting. I think the sequencing is really interesting. The way that the A side and B side almost is like kind of mirroring each other, not completely, but with the songs that they do. And it just feels like there's so much more going on here. Again, they were a garage rock revival group in the late 90s, early 2000s. And bands like, I don't know, like maybe The Strokes or The Hives, which were also bands at this time doing the same kind of music, but obviously in different ways. White Stripes standing out, kind of including kind of that old school rock and blues flavor. But also like some other stuff too, which also makes its way on this album. And obviously it's a band well known for Jack White, Meg White. Obviously Meg is not in music really anymore, and Jack's off doing his own solo stuff and all of his other creative endeavors. And just to see the genesis of that on this album. And no, I don't think this album is inferior or even leveled up because of Seven Nation Army, which yes, I think is a brilliant song. I'm still not tired of it. I think the whole guitar being turned into a bass riff, the pedal thing is crazy. But there's so much more going on this album. And I think, again, with the garage rock movement at the time, they were sort of putting themselves out there as one of the more different groups. And also for them as a band. And Jack White, too, as a creative. I think this album holds a lot to that. And it's fun when an album like this kind of can hit on all that, because then it's more exciting to talk about. So, yeah, I'm not talking about Seven Nation Army. It's about the rest of the album, because there's great songs on here. Now, obviously, there is experimentation on here. By experimentation, I mean it's not just riffy, in your face, like loud, out of tune, whatever, just noisiness. But the following track, Black Math, is definitely that. I love the riff. I think Jack sounds great. I love the way his vocals sound on here. The way it goes to the bridge where it slows down and is ah, 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 ah. I thought that's great. I love the lyrics on here too, of not regurgitating information, sort of learning and like what people go through, whether it's in school or just life in general. The idea of like asking questions and wanting information rather than someone saying like, this is what you need to know, or like, this is what you're going to need for success or whatever. And just kind of spitting that out without any context. I think it's really smart. And then we follow that up with a song, like at this point, we're kind of slowing down to There Is No Home For You Here, lyrically sort of, trying to get a lover out of your life. But it's more simple. I think it's more laid back. I think the riff and the drums are simple, but they're catchy. And I think the backing are beautiful, and it works really well because it adds such a different emotion to the track. And then we get to a Dusty Springfield song, which became a Dionne Warwick cover, which then became a White Stripes cover. I just don't know what to do with myself. I'm not too familiar with the original or the Dionne Warwick song, but I love the way it's like slow, the dun dun, and then the way that the rest of the vocals, like that drum kind of kicks in, I think it works very well. It's off-putting, but it works because they make it work. And again, with their style of music that they like and they perform, I think is a nice kind of change up. At this point, we're starting to kind of get things a little slower, a little quieter. In the Cold Cold Night, where Meg sings the song, and again, from the title, we get a nice chilly guitar from Jack, and it's acoustic-y, and I think it's haunting, and Meg's vocals sound very, very good, and she's killing it. Like, she's really killing it. I Want to Be the Boy That Warms Your Mother's Heart. I like the country twang on it. Vocally and lyrically, it's very simple. It's kind of like a lovey, like, again, from the title, I want to be, the boy that charms your mom over so I can, she can accept me. But the sound of it is interesting, and going back to the tease of what this album brings and what they bring musically. Jack kind of pulling from all these influences and things that he likes so much. And again, like, the country twang on here is so unique and interesting, and it fits the album because it's not such a country song, like a country sounding song. Like, he's kind of building on some of like the country twang and some folky stuff here and there. And then we finish out the A-side with You've Got Her in Your Pocket, which is a nice, cute little acoustic song to bring us into, in my opinion, the real shining star on this album, which is Ball and Biscuit, which obviously is another song that people talk about a lot with the White Stripes. It is a simple blues chord progression, and the song kind of talks about like a drug-induced, like, filled night, like having fun and all that, and the way that Jack's spoken word is. And it's this song that builds and it builds, and then when it gets to the way the drums just get crazy, his guitar solos, and it kind of comes back from that. It's the way that he mixes simplicity with a lot of great musical talent, but then with some very interesting imagery and vocal performance. It's like a mix of so many different things, and it's one of those songs where, like, I think every time it comes on, I think every single second of it is, like, perfect. It's so fucking good. The Hardest Button to Button follows it up. Love this song as well. I love the funkiness of the groove, the boom-doo-doo-doo, boom-doo-doo-doo. I think it's kind of that early garage rock revival stuff. Like, there's a lot of that being infused in here, where it's like there's such a crunchiness to it and such a kind of like raw sound to it, but it comes across so much more because of different influences to it. Little Acorns is like a big piece on this album with a Mort Krim intro, local Detroit newscaster. There's those songs where, look, it's not like terrible or anything. It's just, I think it's definitely, if there's a song on here that maybe is my least favorite, it's probably this one. And I, for some reason, feel like that's a ballsy statement to say. I don't know why. Can't wait to see you all hate on me. Then we get to the shortest, I believe, song on this album, Hypnotize. It's just a great little straightforward garage rock song. I think it's great. I love Jack singing on here. I think he's super charismatic, and he's filling out those vocals very, very well. The Air Near My Fingers gives me some, like, we're back to the bluesy vibes a little bit, but it kind of has like a jazzy feel to it. I think a lot of it is just from the rhythm, and again, the way Jack is approaching it, songwriting wise and vocally. It has sort of that inflection on it, that personality. Girl, You Have No Faith in Medicine is probably, again, probably one of my top 3 songs on this album. It's lyrically, I think it's so clever and so funny, because it's this kind of looking like it's basically a play on like placebo pills, which are these pills that sort of trick your mind into thinking things are going well in your body and fixing it, when in reality it's not. It's just, again, the way that your mind plays tricks on you. But I love the riff on here. I love the dum, 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 dum. It's noisy, it's fuzzy. It's, again, I think this is one of those examples of Jack being so clever. Sonically, it's interesting, but it's not obviously the most like mind, like, oh my god, this is so complex and whatever. But it's when you start to listen to it and you hear the lyrics, that's where a lot of that comes out, and I think it's very interesting. And then we finish out the album with an acoustic song, a cute little acoustic song, Well It's True That We Love One Another, with Holly Golightly of the Head Cody's. Again, I'm not being ignorant by messing it up. I just don't know what it is. I said a couple different versions. You could correct me. But Jack is obviously singing on it with her as well. And Meg shows up. I think it's clever. It's cute. The way they bounce off each other is great. It's simple. It's an effective way to end the album because I think there's some fun to it. It's, I think a lot of times people may not like an acoustic outro to an album. I like it for the context. I like it for the context of what it is. Again, with the whole side A, side B thing as well. And then that's it. I think there are some songs on here that are up to the Seven Nation Army standard. Obviously they're not, you hear that dum 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 dum, and everyone knows what it is. It's a chant. It's everyone knows what it is now at this point. However, I don't think this album is anchored on that song. I think it's an album that I think does a lot very well. It stamps and puts a seal of approval on the, garage rock and blues rock scene at the time. Well, mainly garage rock because, again, the White Stripes were putting their own name and spin on this sound. And it was sad because after this album, we only really got a few more things after that. This was, again, kind of in the later half of their career. But I think from a musical perspective, and then to see where Jack went, and then again, Meg's contributions, which are great. And I definitely think this is one of those albums where you look at that scene in the 2000s, maybe going into the 2010s, where there's a lot of that, like either the dance rock or the garage rock revival. White Stripes are one of those bands that, people say and they talk about, but there's a reason, because they not only were doing it great, but they were putting their own stamp on it and sort of their own spin on it. And it sounds fantastic. And it was led by someone who is one of the more visionary people in music right now. And then, with Meg backing him and it becoming a mainstream success at the time of their career, it's crazy. And the cover's also iconic too. So, but I'm going to just close my freaking notes out now, because this album's great. What do you think? Leave it in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my other classic album reviews. I would greatly appreciate it. I promise I'll try and get my my office cleaned up. Don't turn away. This is not... Listen, I am lazy, but I wanted to get this out, and I thought this would be kind of just a stupid, fun, quirky thing, and I'm hoping that I've been looking not here the entire time. So thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. Peace out, everybody, if you even stayed at this point.